Cuckoo. Hi everybody and welcome back to Chess. So in this video what we want to do is we want to add a scrolling background to our level. Right now our level is looking very dull. All it has is a gray infinite void, so to speak. So we want to spruce it up a bit, make it a bit more attractive. What we want to do now is open our scene for the level, and remember, not level 01. We want to go to scene. You can say open recent or open scene. Open recent, and we want to open level.tscn. In fact, let me just close level 01. So, and in level.tscn, what we want to do, we want to click on level and add a child node. And this child node is parallax background. And for parallax background, we can also add another node, parallax layer, and as a child of parallax layer, sprite, which is going to hold the image for our background. So what we want to do is duplicate this. So say Control D to duplicate it. And we want to rename this to background. And the second one, we want to rename it to mid-ground. Now we want to go ahead and set some base values in our nodes here. So in parallax layer here, what we want to do is go over to the inspector at the top here, click on motion, and now scale refers to the speed at which the background is going to be scrolling. If you want it to move at a slower pace, you set the value to be really low. We might want to start with a value of say 0.3 because this is for our background. And then mirroring just means that our image for the background is going to be repeated throughout the level. And the dimensions of our image is 1280 by 800. So we want it mirrored on the x-axis. So we're going to set its length on the x-axis to 1280. And we want to repeat the same for our midground. But remember, now we want our midground to move a bit faster than our background. So we might have this as on the x-axis to 0.5, and then mirroring, because it's the same size, we're going to have it at 1280. And on that, I just want to explain something small here. The reason why we're setting the speeds of these two layers to different values, such that one moves faster than the other, is so that we can have an effect known as parallax scrolling. So what parallax scrolling is that the best example I can give is if you're driving along a road with some scenery, like you can see all the way into the distance over there. So let's say you have a mountain or a hill all the way far off into the distance. What you usually notice is that the objects that are closest to the road or to the vehicle move really fast, like almost at the speed of the vehicle, right? And as you move, as you look at maybe the bushes that are a bit into the distance, you see them moving at a bit slowly. And if you look at, let's say, the hill that is off into the distance, there, it almost even looks stagnant, like it's not moving out at all. It moves very slowly. So that's the kind of effect that we want to create with our backgrounds here, such that the tiles, which is where money is running, they're moving or they're scrolling fast. Then our midground is scrolling a bit slower, and then our background, which is the farthest away from the camera, moves the slowest. Moving on, uh, what we want to do is now assign images for our backgrounds. So we can go ahead and do that here by dragging our images into the texture property, but I don't want to do that in this scene right here. So remember that our level 01 is inheriting from this scene. So what I'd rather do is save this scene, and when I open level 01, we're going to have our background and midground in here. If we were to move our images into the main scene here for the level, it will mean that every other level that we created, be it level 01, 02, all the way, even if we created 100 levels, they'd all share the same background. But at times, you find that you want your game to have different worlds. So, for example, in this game, Wana Savana Zawadi, I have four worlds, right? So there's a desert world, there's another world where Amani is in a sort of a castle, and there's another one where she's in a dark forest. In order to differentiate those worlds, we want every level to have its own custom background. So we'd rather set the sprite properties in the specific levels themselves rather than in the main scene for level from which all these others are inheriting. Now we want to move our bgworld01.png into the background node here. And then for midground, we want to select sprite and move it into the texture property for sprite. I think with that, we can go ahead and test out our level, see how it's looking. So as you can see, our backgrounds are being rendered right here, but at the moment, like they're only occupying a very small portion of the entire space available. And also, Amani has disappeared off of the screen. She's just beyond the screen there. I think you can see her now. So I think what we want to do is we might want to play around. First of all, these platforms we need to move a bit up, and then also we might want to play around with the scale of our background such that they fit the entire screen. So what we want to do is, in order to make our background images bigger, we want to go into sprite and have the scale as 2 such that the image is twice as big. And also for midground sprite, do the same, times 2. And now, because we've multiplied our image by 2, remember that our initial dimensions were 1280 for the x-axis, so we also need to have this multiplied by 2 such that it's 2560, and do the same for parallax layer for midground. Have this at 2560. Without even running our level, we can see that now our image is covering a much bigger area than it was before. So if you want to confirm, you can go ahead and click on play scene at the top here. My scene is still running, so that's why it has this circular icon. And as you can see, the background images now look a little bigger, but I'm still concerned that there's still a gray area to the right here, which means that I've probably gotten some of my values mixed up a bit. The next thing that we want to change is all our nodes here for the level are being spawned at this point 0, 0 here. So we want the origin of our backgrounds to be this point right here. What we want to do is we want to go into level, and the background for sprite, you can see centered is set to on. We just set that to off, and we do that again for midground. Center is off, and what we want to do is save the scene. Now for the tiles that I had drawn, you can see that they're a bit higher now that our background has come a bit lower. So I'll be needing to edit the placement of these tiles to take them a bit lower in the level. And lastly, if you play the game as it stands right now, there's a high chance that this gray background, this gray void, might be visible to the player. That is not ideal because you want the player completely engrossed in the level design. So we just want to make sure that the camera isn't able to show these gray parts here. We need to go into the scene for Amani and have camera to be selected here. And then now on the right panel here, we're going to go to limit, and then now these values here, as you can see on the screen, it says left scroll limit in pixels. The camera stops moving when reaching this value. So the camera is going to stop following Amani when that value is reached to the left. Same to the top, to the right, and to the bottom. And here you want to have smoothed on like that, so such that the camera, once Amani starts moving, the camera follows her in a smooth manner, and once she stops, the camera doesn't also stop abruptly. It eases into the stop. So for left here, we can go ahead and have 0. For top, we can have 0 as well. And then for right, I've put a value of 1000, but this can be any value that you want. First of all, depending on how long you intend to make your level. And second of all, because you don't have to get to the end of where the tiles run out. Well, once we get to it, we'll be placing our box, our gift box at the end of the level. So we can always place it some way before the tiles run out, so that the camera never has to get to where the tiles run out. So this one is a bit arbitrary. The only thing we need to make sure is that it's not too soon. It doesn't happen before we get to the end of the level, such that there's still some level left to be played and the camera stops following Amani. And now for the bottom, it's 1600 because again, our images are 800 pixels, but the scale is times 2. Let's go ahead and test this to see how it looks. But before we get to testing out the level, just want to show you my new level layout. So I've amended the level where the tiles were appearing a bit up here initially. I've taken them all the way down so that you see the tiles even go just a bit lower than where this image ends up. But on the left side, the tiles align perfectly with the beginning of the image. So here we go. Here's Amani at the beginning of our level, and as you can see, the camera fits very well into the beginning of the level. So it starts exactly where the tiles start, and goes all the way to the bottom here where the ground is. All right, and if we start to move, the camera waits for Amani to get to the point and then starts moving, right? And you can move back and forth, and you can see the easing. Like once Amani stops moving, the camera moves a bit just as it's trying to catch up with her, like that. So the next thing I'd like us to take care of is, I think these shells are a bit too big. Maybe we need to scale them down just a bit. So we are now in the scene for the shells. I think what we need to do is go into the node for sprite and into transform, and where it says scale, we can just have this as 0.5 and 0.5. And then now, since the shell has become a bit smaller, we also need to rectify the collision shape to D. Go ahead and have its boundaries like that, such that it's covering most of the shell, and see how it's going to be rendered in our level. So here we are in the game, and the shells are a bit smaller now, and I think I've made them too small. So back in the shell scene, let me just change this to 0.7 and 0.7 again, and adjust the collision shapes. Perfect. Then let's see how this looks now. So here we are. You can see the shells have become a bit bigger, which is just fine. So that's about it for this video. Don't forget to like the video. Also, if you'd like to see more content coming up, please subscribe. And lastly, if you have friends that you think will enjoy learning about game development, please share this video with them. I'd be really appreciative if this tutorial got to as many aspiring developers as possible. Thank you, and see you in the next one.